Funding for this program was made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by annual financial support from viewers like you.
Human perception of color is weird. Fight me about it. It's all like imagined in our heads. In most early human cultures, the first colors that had words to represent them were white, black, and red. That makes sense. White and black is basically darker or lighter, and red is the color of blood, so it's a valuable one. Our perception of color is deeply influenced by our culture and the words that we have. In Homer's Odyssey, he describes the ocean as being wine dark. Excuse me? It's because people hadn't really invented a word to mean the distinction between blue and other visible light yet in Greece. The Egyptians are credited with being one of the first cultures to have a word that means blue because they were one of the first cultures to create a blue pigment. Before I get too lost in this undiscernibly colored sauce, this channel typically talks about fashion. So, what's the deal with the green trend? From Bottega to Jacquemus, Loewe to New Balance, green has really been popping off in fashion. Vogue argues in 2021, the reason that green became so trendy is because nature-deprived humanoids craved a flavor that reminded them of the lush green earth that they haven't seen. But I don't look at a leaf and go, I really want to wear that. I think it's weird that a color can be trendy in fashion, full stop. So today, join me as billions and billions of photons hit our eyeballs and thus diving into the question of, what's the deal with the green trend? Come on, let's go.
This is spectroscopy, and without it, the universe would be incomprehensible.
Because it's the light from that hot glowing gas that we analyze. Prism that separates the light and divides it into its individual colors.
It's a tough call. They're so different.
Yeah, I do remember the scene in The Devil Wears Prada. I reenact that movie every day on my way to my fancy metropolitan fashion job. I think we should all share in Catwoman's confusion. How is blue or green or any color introduced to us in a way where we think it signifies newness? We all know the colors. Red, orange, yellow, indigo dye, flex spot. I think the only way to get into this is to dive head first into this wine dark pool and get a concussion on the mystery of what makes green trendy. I wanted to do that part with the jump part, so oh my god, I'm screwing this up. Imagine if I got fully slimed right now. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Fashion trends are dictated by the youth, pulling from whatever was discarded by the previous generation and reappropriating it for their own time. Zoomers, who are frankly ruining my life, are big into Y2K. They didn't get the chance to experience Britney Spears in her pubic height denim with her whale's tail. So they're trying to play out right now that experience of being in a Y2K world. And Y2K had a lot of vibrant, garish colors, slime green being one of them. It's built around like a lot of plasticky, gel type shades. Think like my favorite New Yorker article, Chloe's World, where she talks about those gel shoes. That's very Y2K. It's the color of Mountain Dew, the original Xbox, rave parties. Refinery 29 argues that perhaps Bottega green was a predecessor to this Y2K slime green. Slime Y2K green is kind of like the opposite of the pastel millennial pink. I like it though. I like this shade. It's over the top, it's gross, it's icky. It's the color of a plastic Game Boy. I think it really works well as an accent color. Think like those crop-like shoes, anything that you can kind of zip and pop in. So, your call, idiot.
This is PBS, the Public Broadcasting Service.
The magic of oil painting was made possible by grants from Aaron Brothers Art Marts and Koenig Art Emporiums.
Hi, I'm Don Mechanic, president of Zach's Specialty Stores. Zach serves the arts, crafts, and hobby community with 4 locations in the Metroplex. We're proud to make possible the local broadcast of
Brave New Wear Show.
Hands up, just think. The person that uses the head can always defeat the person that's just trying to use their hands. Now remember that, because the more you know. Take away!
Daniel Lee's 3-year tenure at Bottega Veneta is quite possibly the fastest period of time in which a designer was able to have such a wide influence in fashion. The dude speed ran being an influential fashion designer only to leave 3 years later because apparently he was a dick and hard to work with. But without a doubt, Bottega has not only become such a significant brand, but its signature shade of green is the center of all the other fashion green trendiness. Whether or not it came before or after, it's definitely the focal point. Bottega Veneta, which was previously a brand for old Italian men and vintage era Sanjeev, with Daniel Lee, it definitely became a lot more contemporary, a lot more relevant and important in fashion. The green, Bottega Veneta green, I would call it close to like a Kelly green. It's somewhere in between a more muted shade and the slime green I was just talking about. And I think that really worked well for Bottega because it was a color that immediately grabbed your attention and demanded that you look at it, but it was maybe subdued or not as loud enough where it would work in this luxury setting. It worked as a strong accent color in the same way maybe like Hermes's orange does or like Tiffany's blue. Any successful luxury fashion brand needs to have strong footwear and accessories, and you would see this color plastered all over their most iconic bags, set, the pouch, their footwear. This color really worked. I think that's kind of why this trend really built the momentum that it's had, because Bottega became such a force in high fashion, and because this color, it's novel. What made this shade so kind of powerful for the brand was, as it's reimagining its aesthetic, as it kind of went into a more philo Celine kind of refined minimalism, the green definitely helped make all those pieces and like the whole aesthetic of the brand bold.
Back visions of breathtaking adventures on the next edition of Great Railway Journeys. TV worth watching.
The Magic Brush of Gary Jenkins is made possible by a grant from the Martin F. Weber Company, maker of fine art materials.
Robert Redford narrates Condor, a National Audubon Society special.
You're watching
Brave New Wear Show.
Broadcasting in stereo.
Last on our survey are the darker greens. Compared to slime green and the Bottega green, I think these greens are, for lack of a better word, more conservative. And I don't mean that in a derisive way. I think that, in a sense, the brighter and more obnoxious the shade is, the more bold it has been. But these darker greens that I'm thinking about aren't necessarily boring. They're perhaps more sophisticated. I want to give the first caveat being, I'm not thinking of, say, like an olive green. I think olive and more earth-tony greens are kind of in a perpetual rotation in our fashion wardrobes and our accessory wardrobes. I'm thinking of shades that are more like a hunter green. They're rich, deep, very greeny green, and they definitely deserve a place in this trend survey. The 2 items that I think kind of hold this trend up are the new iPhone 13 and the New Balance 550s. Starting with the new iPhone 13, the second color to come out for this iPhone, is this very dark kind of hunter green color. And I think that this is a perfect indication that green is definitely in a trend zeitgeist right now. If Apple is kind of setting their bet on this color, it's a really good indication that they know this is relevant. Apple is the most valuable brand on earth, and few companies have been so influential in industrial design, let alone few products more influential in the 21st century than the iPhone. So keep in mind, like, when they're making these aren't niche products. This isn't something that they are kind of thinking of a specific consumer. They're thinking of everybody on Earth because they plan on selling millions and millions of these. So even a green phone, even if it's like a dark shade, is a signifier. It's something that's a little cool, very different, and it definitely is like a seal of approval for this idea. The 550, I think, kind of rode in with this green trendiness. The entire shoe isn't green, it's mostly white, but those green accents definitely set it apart, and this is definitely the colorway that is trendy right now. I think that this kind of hunter, darker green is a perfect color that encapsulates the marriage between like streetwear and preppiness, a la Aimé Leon Dore and Noah. I think that this green color is definitely like a signifier of those two marriages. And I think that when you look at like the New Balance 550, the way that it's styled best is often kind of influenced by that streetwear preppy marriage, because there's just something like, I think maybe it's the relationship that I have with like dark hunter grains. I think of like Dartmouth College, I think of New England, and New England is very preppy. Hey gang, conclusion time. So, I think that on this journey, we kind of learned that essentially there is something about colors and green that does invoke something that feels new. Maybe it's because colors make us think of memories, some other time. There is something about them. While, like I said earlier, we all know the colors, but I think they do have a capacity to make us remember, make us think of different periods of time. And definitely in fashion and design, the kind of qualities that make anything relevant to us are one part newness and one part nostalgia. And those things are kind of married well with color and with green. So I get it. I get why green could be a trend. I get why color could be a trend. I guess I always knew. But I don't know, maybe I'll explore it later in another color video. We'll see, okay? Don't get your hopes up. In terms of like talking about what you can do with the trend yourself, I mean, the way that I've integrated it is mostly through accents. I think that primarily I've been more in line with the last rung, the darker greens. We've got here my LL Bean bag. And LL Bean, this is kind of like the shade of LL Bean anyway. And inside it, my little LL Bean pouch. And inside that, personal notebook, green. Pen, green, probably going a little overboard, but you can tell, obviously, like, there is, I don't know, something a little tasteful about kind of looking at this color right now as an accent. Because typically when I'm looking at stuff, accessories, products, whatever, I'm usually going from muted colors anyway. Beyond that, if you saw that real TikTok thing I made, I talked about, real tree camo pants. I think this is obviously something that is been trendy, continues to be trendy. And sure, these are an example of colors that are more like the olive, the neutral, earthy greens. But I think like in this setting, in this context of being a lot of shades, like this pair of pants has like kind of like the really brownish and then like pops of this green. I think in this circumstance, just because these pants are so loud, they play to the green trend a little bit more. Almost certainly I've left some stuff out. That's just how things go. I can't talk about literally everything. What are you, crazy? And yeah. That's it. Bye.
Channel 13 is growing thanks to your loyal support. Your contributions make the programs you enjoy possible. And we'd like to thank you for making our quiet drive a success. Thanks to you, we met our fiscal year-end goal. So you can look forward to more
Brave New Wear Show
right here on Channel 13.
This completes today's programming on WVTV, which operates on Channel 18. WVTV, with studios and transmitter located in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, is owned and operated by the Gaylord Broadcasting Company. Programs telecast by this station may not be used for any other purpose except exhibition at the time of their broadcast on receivers in places where no admission, cover, or mechanical operating charges are made. WVTV operates on an assigned frequency of 494 to 500 megahertz. We now close our programming day with the national anthem.